Are you tired of having an easy life to choose which gadget should use? Huh. I wonder which one should I use? Well, glad to know because that is exactly what I'll be doing here today. And starting off with one of the most obvious problems of them all, we have Shelly. Her first gadget is absolutely useless and the second gadget is just really good. So to fix that, her first gadget, now after dashing, you gain a 20% speed boost for 3 seconds. It is very simple, but it is very obvious that literally any dash ability has some sort of extra, because otherwise a very bland dash like Shelly's one, it is just simply weak. And I mean, obviously they wanted these to be like a combo wombo with the super like most of the dashes in the game, but it just simply does not work. You need something else. And hopefully this speed buff is exactly that. Now the second gadget on the other hand would have its duration reduced from 5 seconds to 4 seconds. This technically means that if you use your shots very well, you no longer can just use 4 shots with this gadget. Even if you did a very good timing, I think you still would not be able to actually do 4 shots. So with this nerf, you would only get at maximum 3 shots, and you would get enough time to choose when to actually shoot those shots instead of probably trying to use 4. Regardless, this gadget is very strong, and both of these changes I feel like they are pretty not game breaking. So probably even with these buff and nerfs, the gadget choice would still be fairly simple, but probably with these changes, hopefully the first gadget would be the best option in some more grassy maps, because you just see clay pigeons every time. Jesus. Next on the list we have Colt, and honestly this is a fairly simple one, but Silver Bullets has been kinda decaying over the time. The breaking wall ability, it is no longer as prevalent as once used to be, so now the damage, instead of being twice the bullet, it will now be thrice the bullet. I hope I said it right. So now instead of dealing like 2 bullets of damage, you would deal 3 bullets of damage, and honestly on a good day I would say 4 bullets of damage, but Colt is already a fairly good brawler. And I'm not here trying to buff any brawler, I'm just trying to make the gadget choice harder, and it already kinda is in some scenarios, so honestly this tiny buff should be more than enough to make your life harder. Next on the list we have another very simple one, yet I feel like everyone was expecting this one, Bull's first gadget. It absolutely sucks. Why would you not use the second gadget? I feel like the only scenario where you could actually use the first gadget, it is when you have unbreakable walls and you have like a very good point where you can use the super and gain a very decent advantage. Other than that, absolutely useless. So the healing of the first gadget will be severely increased from 2000 to 2750. This is a maximum level. Now the gadgets scale with the levels, so yeah, kinda hard to tell how much heal will you get at like power 7 or something like that. But at power 11, from 2000 health HP gain to 2750, which should help him out quite a fair bit with his first gadget. Next on the list we have Poco's second gadget. I will just say, I know that his second gadget is not horrible in ranked, but what are the odds of you facing a very good composition that you just gain massive value out of a 4-second immunity? It used to be worse, let me just say that, it used to be 1 second, but like, you cannot use that gadget at all in regular games. Like in competitive has a last pick, can be kinda decent, but even there, you will just use the first gadget because it's better. We are in a tank meta. So, first things first, the immunity duration will be increased from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. And on top of that, the radius will be increased from 6 tiles to 7 tiles. So now it would actually be even easier to land that immunity. So honestly, this gadget just sucks. And honestly, this was a gadget that I fell in love at first sight because I just loved the concept. But unfortunately, it's just way too rare, the utility. So how sad. Hopefully these buffs should make the gadget slightly better. Next on the list we have Dynamite again. Your second gadget. I'm gonna be extremely nice and only gonna nerf it to to 1.25 seconds. Because it used to be like 1 second for a very tiny moment, and then it was brought to like 1.5 seconds, and from that moment it has just been one of the strongest gadgets ever. Forever. They never nerfed this thing. How annoying and how brutal is that? So this tiny nerf should make the gadget at least not broken. And now let's talk about his first gadget, and there's gonna be a lot of changes to that. So to start off, the duration of the gadget will be increased from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. This not only means that you will get the speed boost for longer, as it will also mean that you will get an additional 10 dynamites while spinning around, which is good, it is really good. And on top of that, the speed boost will be increased from 19% to a whopping 25%. 19%. What a specific number, not gonna lie. So, with all of these buffs, I will actually do one nerf, which is to reduce the damage from 2400 to 1600. The main thing is that consistency. Like, it is just how can you randomly guess that one of the bombs that is there, it actually deals more damage than the rest? It just simply does not make any sense. So hopefully with all of these buffs and the tiny nerf, everything will be balanced. Especially the second gadget. Please nerf that thing. Jackie. Her second gadget. How the hell did this even went to the game? It sounded like a very cool idea on paper, but like, we all knew that this would have no practical use. Like, why? Why did we do that for ourselves? But honestly, I just see no other way. This gadget just needs to be completely removed, and I would bring a new one. So for the new one, it would be Drill Underground. I don't know. Honestly, I just made up that name, so sorry if it is absolutely horrible. So you would create a portal entrance like Gray's one on top of you when you click on the gadget. You would have a 3-second delay, and then you would create the second part of the gadget, of the portal. So in a certain way, you would get a portal with this gadget. By using this gadget, you would reset the first portal, so no having more than 3 portals for you. And on top of that, this would also mean that, it would be movement for Jackie. And honestly, I could see this being kind of broken with Gray, because, obviously there are 2 different portals, so those 2 different portals could exist at the same time. But I just see no other way with Jackie. Her second gadget, there is no possible way to make it even close to be good. So yeah, rest in peace, old second Jackie gadget, because you suck. Next on the list we have Tick, and I will say this is a very simple one. So the first gadget, I feel like it is overall a little bit weak. I know that it is good in strategic zone. Come on, I am not stupid. But at the same time, I just feel like the second gadget, it is almost a necessity. So now the first gadget, number 1, will also have a mine in the middle. So now you can have a little bit more damage with the first gadget. And on top of that, the second gadget, the explosion delay will now be increased from 1 second to 1.5 seconds. Yes, I do am aware that this means that you would have an additional ½ second of 50% shield, but let's be realistic. What you want is to explode, not have a shield. The shield is just like a wind up in a certain way. So increasing the wind up while having still that 50% shield would not be the end of the world, but I feel it would be a justified nerf to honestly a kinda annoying gadget. So hopefully with these nerfs, Tick becomes less annoying. Rico. More specifically, his first gadget, it is absolutely broken. We are at the point where you don't even need to use it close to the enemy. You can just use it and you have guaranteed bonus damage. That's how strong this thing is. So I would nerf the damage from 896 at a maximum level to 720 damage, which if I'm correct, it is the same damage as his super does. Honestly, I remember this thing did like what, 300 and a few damage, and then they just went nuts on it and they just decided to put it, I think it almost dealt 1000 damage per bullet, which is just crazy when you really think about it. Absolutely crazy. This gadget is so annoying to face off, I mean, it's not like even spikes, it's like even worse somehow. I honestly don't know. This gadget is just very strong and very annoying. And to compensate a little bit, the second gadget, it has had for sure a lot better days, and so the healing would be slightly increased from 256 to 320, which is half the damage of a regular attack. I just like this consistency thing, so yeah. Honestly, the healing is not even that great right now. I mean, you just use this first gadget and you will just deal so much more damage. So the healing should definitely be buffed and the damage should for sure be nerfed. Next on the list we have Gus, and I do not blame you if you completely forgot that his second gadget existed. Like, you sacrifice 5% of the HP to get your ghosty bar full. Like, what is this? It just simply does not make sense. And I mean, if his ghosts were actually good, I could see the gadget also being good, but the ghosts are not even usable unless you use the first gadget, which is very bad. So honestly, this gadget is just bad and bad at the same time. Breaking Bad. Honestly, this is just very bad for the gadget, so I will completely change it completely. So now, you'll just dash forward and poop a ghost. Honestly, for the longest time, Gus has just lacked survivability, and that is one of the main reasons why he's so bad right now. I mean, obviously they added the pushback to the super, but that is just simply not good enough. It's barely even a thing. Like, only if they are like extremely close to you, you can actually do something with this super. So honestly, this second gadget should be that extra survivability that Gus needs, and now you'll have to choose bonus damage, probably more in sniper maps, or an extra defensive mechanic. Your turn to choose. Bow. Honestly, I know that this could be a little bit dangerous, but I want his second gadget, the delay, to be reduced from 1.5 seconds to 0.5 seconds. I understand the idea of the second gadget, but let's be realistic, that only works with newbies. Like, smart people, really smart people, understand where the mines are. I mean, you just need a little bit of skill and you can immediately counter this gadget. I mean, you could use it on the high safe, but let's just be realistic, there are so many better options for that. We are no longer in 2022, where hyperchargers were not a thing. So honestly, I feel like asking for above this second gadget, considering how crazy the game is right now, I feel like it is not that crazy of an idea, especially that with the fact that I'm not making it instantaneous. So like, in a certain way, you can still have half second of the thing to just run away, and maybe, just maybe, instead of getting completely melted by 3 mines, you would only be hit by one of the mines, be stunned, and then 1 second later be melted by Bow's a lot of damage. Which is a good thing. It is a really good thing. Bow, I mean, he hasn't been meta for like quite a while, I think, right now. And I feel like this second gadget is just there standing still waiting to be helpful. Like, what are we actually gonna do with this gadget in the state where it is? So hopefully this buff will make the gadget choice slightly harder. Next we have Ems, and honestly, as you can see, I don't really play Ems, but honestly I just want her second gadget, the damage reduction, to be reduced from 10% to 0%. I mean, it made sense on paper having a damage reduction, but in reality it's just a boring detail. Like 10% less damage, come on, let's just remove that. Viper. Honestly, the first gadget just simply no longer does anything related to the second star power. It is so simple. Like, now, when you hit that tiny thingy, you do not gain ammo when using the second star power. It might not sound like enough, but trust me, this would be very impactful, because a lot of the times just shoot, and you get 0.8 ammo. You hit the tiny thingy, and you already got 1 ammo, and then you hit again, and you in total almost got 2 ammos, and at that time you already got the super to run away and, or I don't know, deal damage with the bombs to finish them off. Like, when maxed out, this gadget can be very strong, so just removing this tiny annoying extra which is not even written in the description. Like, there is no way anyone could have guessed unless you tried it. So this nerf is completely justified. BB, more importantly, the second gadget. Honestly, I mean, it was meant to be a star power. Some people already know that, but as a star power it would be great, as a gadget it is absolutely horrible. Especially because the first gadget is also very valuable, but I honestly don't feel like it is necessary to nerf that because it's not really that broken. So now, the second gadget, instead of just randomly slowing down people for 3 seconds, now it would create a path of slowing zone that would slow enemies down for 1 second, and that slowing zone would last for 3 seconds. This is clearly an overall buff. I mean, obviously some people could just run away from that zone, that is clearly an option, but at the same time I don't think that would happen that often, and obviously creating a zone of slow that massive, like, you can just get the insane area control that you get, like you use that, and then because of that slowing area you cannot even run away, because I mean, you're slowed, you cannot go to that direction, you're dead. So honestly, this rework slash buff would for sure be a good change to this gadget. Edgar and his second gadget. I mean, there is no way, I mean, like, the first gadget is just superior. That's simple. There is no way you're gonna use the second gadget and you might say, oh, what about close range maps? I mean, you're not wrong, but if you're using Edgar on a close range map like that one you're probably thinking, there are way much better choices than Edgar. I mean, come on, use Bull, Shelly, I don't know, Clancy the Lobster. But don't use Edgar with the second gadget, come on. Like, it just don't. So honestly, to fix this and actually make the second gadget a viable choice, I would add this extra to Edgar's second gadget. When the shield breaks, Edgar would get 50% of his super instantaneously. So pretty much, now we'd have to choose. You can either get, if I'm correct, like, I don't know, 75% of your super in 4 seconds, or you can choose to wait like 20 seconds if you really want just your shield to break naturally, or you can just break your own shield, like put yourself in danger to get instantaneously 50% of the super. I still think that the first gadget would be superior because it's just a lot more simpler and a lot more versatile, and I mean, you just don't get that with the second gadget. You also get the shield, which can be very helpful, but you can just use the super to dodge a dangerous situation. So yeah, but with this buff, I mean, at least the second gadget would be a lot better, like a lot better really. So who knows, maybe with this change the second gadget will actually be good. Griff. It is so weird, like coin shower, an extra row of coins. What in the actual hell is that? Honestly, it just really does not make sense. So now, coin shower would be completely reworked, and with that, his next super would have an additional 300% more projectiles, and instead of hitting like in the area that it does, it will now be in a 360 degrees. So you click on the gadget and you just throw money 360, and it would be a lot as well, which would make it very easy to land. So yeah, the second gadget really needs to change because honestly it just sucks. Bonnie. Very simple and very straightforward. The dashing distance of the second gadget would now be doubled. Honestly, this gadget could have a lot of potential if it was actually a dash. Most of the times you only use this as the knockback and a little bit the damage as well. Like, the damage is fine and all of that, but I mean, it has no use other than that. The dash is just horrible, the first gadget is just superior, and Bunny is bad right now, so I don't think that the first gadget really needs a nerf, even though I do agree this is a very strong gadget. But honestly, this doubling the distance, it just feels like the right thing to do, because that is exactly what this Bonnie is missing. Like, she's very fast, but I mean, after you're jumping, you're just gone, you're just dead, so this gadget buff should help with that. Next on the list, we have Colette, and honestly her second gadget is just way too strong. 80% heal. This is one of those gadgets that was added when the brawler was like extremely weak in order to compensate for its weakness, and now the character is no longer weak, so why even bother having a very strong gadget? This gadget is still to this day one of the strongest gadgets in the game, and for a good reason. So honestly, reducing the heal from 80% to 66% feels pretty fair to me, because I mean, you just heal too much from this gadget. Like super and then gadget to heal and then super with the shield to get even more shield. It is a really crazy combo wombo, and it is just way too strong in my opinion. Belle. Honestly, I just feel like her second gadget should last for 4 seconds. If Shelly 1 lasted for 4 seconds, and I mean, this gadget is supposed to give you a very offensive capability for a short amount of time, but it feels more like it is a finalization enemy kind of gadget, which is honestly a very weak one, especially for Belle, because we already have like the target, and the barrel trip already also deals damage. And I just feel like this gadget, it is a very good idea, but it is just weak, so honestly just this buff should make it up for that. Also, it can be technically a nerf, because like you can no longer hold it, so just remember that. Ash. His second gadget still sucks to this day. It was the best gadget in the game for like 1 day, then they nerfed it to the ground. Honestly, they nerfed it below the ground. They Minecrafted the ground, and then they just put his gadget right in the bottom, below bedrock. It is just that weak, honestly. And then they buffed it to make it less absurdly bad, but you just don't usually sacrifice 25% of your remaining HP to get 40% rage. It's just not enough. Like, obviously, in reality speaking, it is a good thing. Like, you usually need 125% of your HP to get the rage. So actually getting that much rage for that amount of HP loss, it is really good, but it just is not practical. The first gadget is superior. So let's rework that, so that now instead of taking 25% of your HP, it will now simply take one of your ammos. In a certain way, this might sound a bit counterintuitive, because you need the ammo to attack. So actually you're not getting as much rage as you would like, but this would be very helpful to, like, you eat one of your ammos and then just deal a lot of damage to those guys. It can be very good, but it will not be for sure broken. Sam. His second gadget, it is a disappointment, especially for me, because for the longest time I genuinely thought that the explosion also dealt damage, only to be disappointed with the sad reality that it doesn't. It's just knockback. What is that? It just simply does not make any sense. So now, the explosion not only deals damage, it does the knockback, and it also charges the super. And yes, if you aim it very well, you can deal 2 times damage with the super. This would for sure make this choice of the gadget a lot harder, because I mean, the explosion dealing damage, it is a big game changer factor, and it for sure helps Sam him out. Maisie. Her gadget choice, it is one of those that is just straight up obvious. We have a gadget that is helpful, it helps around with assassins in case you don't have the super, and it has a really great synergy with the super. Like, it is just almost an impossible gadget that you will just use always. So what is the best thing that you like about Maisie? The super. And has a RT spirit kind of thing. Has the new second gadget, it will now be you straight up gain the super. Honestly, I just don't see other way. I know this is very basic and very lame, but the reality is there is not much else you could do that would actually like replace the first gadget. I just don't see it happening. The first gadget just simply provides so much value, which is absolutely crazy. So honestly, the first gadget also needs a tiny nerf. Now, instead of being a half-second stun, it will just be a pushback. So you dash, and you also push back enemies behind. Imagine these like Sam's second gadget, but behind you. It would be that tiny explosion that would just push people back. It would for sure be a nerf, and I mean, the first gadget, I honestly don't think it will ever be replaced, but instantly gaining the super can also be very good. So who knows, maybe the gadget choice will be slightly harder. For Hank, I honestly just want to completely rework his first gadget. His first gadget, in paper it sounded interesting, like you slow enemies down and you can like connect the super easier or connect some extra shots easily. But the reality is you just need the second gadget to like save yourself from very aggressive plays in case you don't have the super. So I have a very interesting idea. The first gadget, instead of being that trashy thing that it is, it will now be your bubble charges twice as fast for 5 seconds. So your bubble, instead of taking 2.5 seconds to charge, if I'm correct, it would take 1.25 seconds to charge. So you could use this gadget and get 4 fully charged bubbles, which is really good. Like you just suddenly get a lot of bonus range and bonus area control incredibly fast, which is a very strong thing to have, honestly. I definitely think that the gadget choice would for sure be quite challenging with such a great gadget as the first thing. The second gadget would still be good though. Pearl, another character whose gadget choices is incredibly simple. Like, why would you waste your attack healing people? That does not make any sense. So first things first, now the second gadget does not waste your heat meter. That is the first thing. So this automatically means that whatever you start heal with the first attack, you will get that in all of the next ones. So this will help the healing to be just a tiny bit more consistent. But there is more. Now the healing, instead of being 25%, it will be 35%. So in a certain way, the old burning damage got swapped with the healing, because honestly the damage was pretty good, so hopefully the healing at 33% will be also really good, especially with this tiny bonus. Who knows, maybe Pearl could start becoming a healer, because Pearl is also kinda disappearing, so there is no need for nerfing the first gadget in my opinion. Larry and Laurie. How are these guys still viable in the meta? Nobody knows, but they are still very, very strong. So honestly, the second gadget, the healing one, still needs a nerf to this day. Now, the gadget no longer heals Larry. So you would only get the heal on the Laurie, which is still the best thing about the gadget, but now you just simply do not get heal on yourself. Now you only heal Laurie. This would change the gadget a little bit. Instead of you just being able to rush into people sometimes, you just throwing like 3 bombs at them, now you would not heal at all, only the Laurie would heal, which it's obviously still very good, but I mean, you just get the point. You would not be able to yourself, Larry, be as aggressive. It would only be for Laurie to actually try to be somewhere more aggressive, which it is very weird, but it would definitely be a good nerf to this gadget. And the first gadget, which is the swap order, which is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. There's actually a bug. Carnage addressed this bug on one of his videos a long time ago, where now this gadget reduces your damage, which, I mean, why would you make your life even harder? I mean, not that playing Larry and Laurie is hard, but like, you get the point. Now these weapons changing would no longer reduce your damage, so now you would just get the damage of the actual weapon you're using, which obviously it would still be a very bad gadget, but it would be a buff. Like, I just don't know what to say about that gadget. It is just way too stupid. And finally we have Barry. So to start off, his second gadget, instead of the duration that the ice cream stays on the floor, instead of being just double the duration, now be double the radius. Like, for me it makes perfect sense. Come on, do that. And at the same time, his first gadget, it is absolutely broken, so reduce the healing from 1000 to 500. Both of these changes should make the gadget choice slightly harder. You can either choose a lot of more area control, or you can just choose the classic knockback ability. Yeah. And there you go. I know I still have to change all of the mythics and legendaries gadgets, but this video would take ages if I did that. So I'll do that on the second part. If the part already released, I'll put that on the link in the description. How would you change the gadgets? I want to know your opinions. Write in the comments down below. If you like, do not forget to subscribe as well, and I'll see you on the next video.